String compression. Implement a method to perform basic string compression using the counts of repeated characters. For example, string AAABBBCCC would become A2B1C5A3. If the compressed string would not become smaller than the original string, your method should return the original string. You can assume the string has only uppercase and lowercase characters. So the problem is saying if the output of length of output is more than the length of input, then we should return the input. Let's try out some edge cases for the input and the output. So that means if we have one character as the input, we will always return the input. There's one catch in that statement is that it's saying if output length was not smaller than input length. That means if output length was bigger than or equal to the input length. That's when we return the input. So now the input length is equal to output length, but still we are returning input. And so we are trying some more cases, and when we reach 3 characters, there is a possibility for us to return the output. So we can confidently now say that if the length of input was 2 or less, we will always return the input. And if the length of the input was 3 or more, we will then need to calculate more stuff to see what we want to return. We will need to have our output ready. So for length of less than 3 or 2 or less, we will always return the input. But if the input was 3 or more, then we want to calculate the output. So let's have that given example. Let's write it down. So how are we going to tackle this? Let's create a new string using string builder, and let's have a variable called last unique character, and for the first iteration set it to the first character in the string and put it in our new string builder, and then count. And then as we loop through the input, we will compare each character with the last unique character that we stored in our variable. And then as long as last unique character is the same as our current character, we will add 1 to the char count. And if we go to the next unique character, we will basically reset our char count, and we will, after creating our string, we will compare its length with the input. If it was smaller, then we will return the generated string. If it was not, then we will return the input. And so I'm writing the bgo runtime of each part of the code, and the worst case is bgo of n for the runtime. Now let's see if our console works. Excuse me. Yeah, it's working. Now let's create a new function which is returning a string, and it's called string builder, and it's getting a string as an input. Now let's pseudocode. If the length of the input is 2 or less, then we will return the input right away. Else, we will create a new instance of string builder and loop through the input string, and then append each unique char to it, and count the number of occurrences of each unique character and append them to the string builder as well. And then if the length of the compressed string was less than the input, we will return the compressed string, otherwise we will return the input. Now let's store the size of the input in a separate variable so that we can always refer to it in our code and we don't calculate the length multiple times in our code block. So if the input size was 2 or less, as we said, we will return the input. Then we are creating a new variable. Let's rename the given string. I called it input string, and now I'm calling the new variable compressed string builder. I don't want it to be confused with the final string that we want to create. Now we want to loop through our input. We first need to initialize some other variables. So we need to have a place to store the last unique character. And how are we going to do this in code? So, we also need another variable for counting the unique chars. I'm going to initialize last unique char to a space, assuming the given string doesn't start with a leading space. No, let's not do that. So if, how am I going to initialize the unique char for the first character in our string? Am I going to do that in the for loop? Are we going to check this condition at each iteration? Say if I was 0, then last unique char is the first char, and then no, let's not do that. We can do that outside. Don't need to check this condition at each iteration. Yeah. And then we are going to append the first character into the generated string. And if the current string that we are iterating over is the same as last unique char, we will add 1 to the unique char count. Otherwise, we will append the unique char count to the. Otherwise, it means that we are basically going to the next unique character and we want to add the previous char count that we had to the end of our compressed string, and then we will want to reset the count, and after that we want to also update our last unique char and then append the new unique char to the string, and after that we want to convert our string builder to an actual string and then compare the sizes. If it was smaller than the input size, we will return the new generated string, compressed string. Otherwise, we will return the input string. Now let's test it. So for a string of length 2 and 1, it works fine. For a string of length 3, it worked fine. Now for this string, there's a strange thing going on. We have 3 C's, but we are getting 2 C's in our output. So I just updated our reset statement in our loop to reset the char count to 1 while in the loop. But I'm not updating, but I'm not reset, like the first initial char count, I kept it at 0. I didn't change that to be 0, to be 1 as well. So now I want to fix the char count of the last unique character not showing up. And for this, I'm getting this error. I just forgot to use double equal signs. I'm using the assignment operator. So it takes a while till I figure that out. I thought maybe I need to put a letter at the end of my number. where I'm subtracting 1 from the thing. And I just noticed that I have to use double equal sign. Yeah. And now it's working fine. So yeah, this is how our final result looks like. Hope you liked it.